Welcome to TechVerse. Elon Musk is working on a spacecraft that has the potential to change the face of space travel forever. There will be a total of 100 individuals on board the Starship, which will be a fully reusable transport system that will take them to the Red Planet. In order to make life multi-planetary, Elon Musk's private spaceflight business, SpaceX, was founded with the goal of making it so. He believes that establishing human settlements on other worlds, such as Mars, will help to preserve civilization in the event of a calamity on Earth, such as a massive asteroid hit. The course of history will be divided into two distinct streams. One possibility is that we will continue to exist on Earth indefinitely, and then there will be some sort of extinction event. Musk stated this in 2016. It is possible to become a spacefaring civilization and a multi-planet species as an alternative, which I believe is the best course of action. The creator of SpaceX has spoken frequently about his ambition to establish communities on the planet Mars. He argues that in order for settlements to become self-sustaining, they would require a huge number of people to live there. This desire can only be realized with the help of a vehicle that is up to the challenge. The Starship is a rocket and a spacecraft combo that has the capability of transporting more than 100 people at a time to Mars. The system is intended to be completely and quickly reusable after it has been built. Having all the major hardware components reusable means that they are not thrown in the sea or allowed to burn up, as is the case with some other launch systems, but are instead returned to the ground so that they can be flown again. Starship's rapid reusability refers to its ability to refuel and be ready to launch again in a short period of time after returning from space, similar to that of an airplane. As a result, the overall cost of the firm is reduced. At the time of launch, the spaceship will be named Starship, which will be mounted on a rocket known as Super Heavy. As a whole, the system will tower 120 meters or 394 feet tall, and it will be referred to as a Starship. Let's start with the spacecraft, shall we? The stainless steel spacecraft, which has a nose cone and landing fins, is reminiscent of the rocket ships from the golden age of science fiction novels. 6 highly efficient Raptor engines, which were developed by SpaceX over the course of a decade, are located in the rear of the 50 meters or 160 feet long spacecraft. There are several steps to the combustion process, and the engine is designed to reduce the quantity of propellant that is wasted. The propellant tanks are located in the midsection of the vehicle. These provide the Raptors with liquid methane, CH4, and liquid oxygen, O2, through their pipelines. Methane serves as the fuel, while oxygen serves as the oxidizer, which is a chemical that causes the fuel to burn. Methylox is a name given to this combination of drugs. Although methane is an unusual fuel for rocket engines, it has the ability to provide a significant amount of thrust. It is also a wise decision in view of Musk's plans for colonization of Mars. A chemical mechanism known as the Sabatier reaction, according to the SpaceX founder, might be used to synthesize CH4 from Martian subterranean water and atmospheric carbon dioxide, CO2. By refueling the Starship for the return trip to Earth with Martian resources, a measure of self-sufficiency would be achieved, making journeys to and from Earth more viable and cost-effective. The spacecraft's payload compartment is located near the front of the spacecraft, which is sometimes referred to as the upper stage. This compartment will be capable of transporting significant amounts of cargo or passengers to destinations in deep space. Let us now focus our attention on the rocket. Super Heavy, which is 70 meters or 230 feet in length, will be filled with 3,400 tons or 6.8 million pounds of cryogenic or chilled methylox. As previously stated, it would be propelled by around 32 Raptor engines, although the exact number has changed numerous times. Its maximum thrust is expected to be more than 70 Meganewtons, that's 16 million pounds. Ideally, it should be capable of delivering at least 100 tons of payload to low Earth orbit, and maybe as much as 150 tons. Because of this, the Super Heavy will be more powerful than the massive Saturn V rocket that was utilized to launch the Apollo Moon missions in the 1960s and the 1970s. It will begin to tilt over as it ascends away from the launch pad and towards the intended orbit as it ascends away from the launch pad. During a separation of the top stage in space, the Super Heavy rocket flips over and falls back towards Earth. As it descends, Super Heavy will deploy steel structures known as grid fins, which are shaped like potato waffles and will be deployed from the sides of the rocket during the descent. These will assist in guiding the rocket stage back towards its launch pad, allowing it to be flown once more. SpaceX has an ambitious plan to catch the falling booster using its launch tower, which is now in the process of being built. While the spacecraft and rocket are sitting on the launch pad, This tower allows engineers and crew personnel to have access to the spacecraft and rocket to prepare for launch. The launch tower will be equipped with a pair of steel arms that will stretch outward. The grid fins will then bear the brunt of the weight as the spent booster folds onto the arms of these grid fins. A Godzilla-like beast from the Godzilla films has been called the Mechazilla because of the tower's resemblance to one of those creatures. Meanwhile, the top stage of the Starship might be placed in a parking orbit after separation, allowing it to be refueled with propellant after being depleted. If you just fly Starship to orbit and don't do any refilling, it's pretty good. You'll get 150 tons to low Earth orbit and have no fuel to go anywhere else, Musk explained in 2017. It is possible to send up tankers and refill them in orbit, which will allow you to refill the tanks all the way to the top and transport 150 tons of payload all the way to Mars. In order to refuel, the spacecraft would dock with another Starship that is already orbiting the Earth and serves purely as a propellant depot, a process known as mating, to accommodate long-distance missions to Mars and return, which could take up to 9 months on each leg. Musk is planning to construct approximately 40 rooms in the cargo area near the front of the upper stage. If you really wanted to cram everyone into a little space, you could fit 5 or 6 people in each cabin if you wanted to. However, I believe that the most of the time we would expect to see 2 or 3 passengers per cabin, and so a nominal total of roughly 100 people per voyage to Mars, Musk expressed himself. In addition to the payload bay, there would also be social rooms, storage space, a galley, and a shelter where people may congregate to protect themselves from solar storms, which occurs when the sun spews out hazardous charged particles into outer space. A spaceship will also play an important role in NASA's Artemis mission, which intends to establish a long-term human presence on the moon in the near future. A $2.89 billion contract to develop Starship into a lunar lander capable of sending astronauts to the lunar surface over the next decade was awarded to SpaceX in April 2021 by the United States Space Agency. A version designed specifically for Artemis flights would not include the heat shield or flaps that are required for a return trip to the planet's surface. Instead, following its initial launch from Earth, the Starship human landing system would remain in space, allowing it to be used for repeated voyages between lunar orbit and the moon's surface in the future. The uncrewed or cargo version of the Starship has a payload bay that opens up like a mouth of a crocodile, which makes for an interesting visual effect. This would make it possible to use it for satellite launches in the future. According to SpaceX, the massive cargo capacity opens up possibility for new sorts of robotic science missions, including telescopes larger than the James Webb Space Telescope, which will be the successor to the Hubble Space Telescope. That was all for it today. Like and subscribe for more.